$300 cash every Friday. You got that, boy? Or is your kind too dumb to count? Sergeant Crawford crowds the Black Street vendor's cart, badge gleaming, cheap cologne mixing with grilled onions. I understand, sir. I just started 2 months ago. Shut your mouth. Crawford jabs a finger in his face. This permit is toilet paper. 1 phone call and your black ass is in cuffs. 1 call to ICE and they'll find something wrong. They always do with people like you. The vendor's dark hands stay steady. He counts 15 20s and offers them in silence. Crawford snatches the cash, pats the man's cheek hard enough to sting. Good boy. Maybe you can be trained after all. He strolls to his cruiser without looking back. Beneath the apron, a tiny red light blinks, still recording. Sergeant Crawford just extorted an undercover federal marshal. He has no idea. Stay with this one. 72 hours earlier, Tuesday morning, 6:15 a.m. Downtown Hartfield, Texas is still waking up when Scott Davidson wheels his hot dog cart to the corner of Main and 5th. The wheels creak against cracked pavement as summer haze rises from the asphalt, promising another brutal day of 90-degree heat. Scott is black, 38 years old, with broad shoulders and calloused hands that speak of physical labor. Army veteran. That's what his story says. Recently divorced. Starting over with nothing but a cart and a dream. That's the cover anyway. He lifts the stainless steel lid to check the water level. Steam rises into his face. Mustard, relish, ketchup lined up in a row. Napkins stacked. Everything in its place, just like he was trained. 4 other vendors share this stretch of sidewalk. They've been here longer. They know things Scott is still learning. Elena Vargas sets up her taco cart 30 feet south. 62 years old, Mexican-American, silver hair pulled back tight. 11 years on this corner. She walks over with 2 cups of coffee, hands one to Scott without asking. "You're the new one," she says, her accent soft and warm. "Be careful around here." Scott takes the cup. Careful of what? Elena's dark eyes shift toward the street. A patrol car rolls past, slow and deliberate, like a shark circling. She watches it until it disappears around the corner. Just be careful. She returns to her cart without another word. Her hands are shaking slightly. Across the street, Tyler Williams arranges fruit on his wooden stand. 28 black, keeps his head down whenever police cars pass. Never makes eye contact with badges. And there's Henry Dawson. 71 years old, black, Korean War veteran with faded tattoos on his forearms. His pretzel cart has occupied this corner for 34 years. His hands tremble when he counts change now. And not just from age. Henry catches Scott's eye and waves, a small gesture between 2 black men on a street corner, acknowledging each other's existence in a city that often pretends they don't exist at all. Scott waves back. The morning passes quietly. Sales are decent. A few regulars learning his name. Tourists who don't tip. A businessman who orders 2 dogs and checks his phone between every bite. Nothing unusual. Elena stops by again around noon. She presses a weathered hand to her chest. "My heart isn't what it used to be," she says. "Doctor wants me to retire. But who retires from a taco cart?" Scott smiles. "You'll outlive us all, Elena." She laughs, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Something heavy lives behind them. At 2:00 p.m., the lunch rush fades. Scott wipes down his cart, checks his supplies. Then, 2:15 p.m. An unmarked Crown Victoria pulls up and parks in the no parking zone directly in front of Scott's cart. Engine idles for a moment, then cuts off. Elena sees it first. Her face changes, warmth draining away like water through fingers. She turns her back, pretends to organize her supplies. Tyler suddenly finds his shoelaces fascinating. Henry Dawson stares straight ahead at nothing, jaw tight, hands trembling worse than before. The driver's door opens with a heavy click. A man steps out. White, mid-40s, uniform pressed sharp, badge gleaming, hand resting on his citation book like it's a weapon. He doesn't hurry. He walks like he owns every inch of this street. And Scott Davidson's Careful Tuesday is about to end. Sergeant Dale Crawford crosses the street like he's got all the time in the world. 44 years old. 18 years on the Hartfield Police Department. White, with a face that looks like it's never smiled at anything it didn't hurt first. His boots hit pavement with the weight of a man who's never been questioned. He stops at Scott's cart. Too close. Inside the space where customers stand. Inside the space where strangers don't belong. "You're new." Not a question. A statement. Scott keeps his hands visible on the cart. "Started about 2 months ago, sir." Crawford's eyes move slowly across the permits posted on the side. Health inspection sticker. Business license. He studies each one like he's looking for a reason to tear them down. "Nice little setup." His voice is flat. "You know how things work around here yet?" "I sell hot dogs. People pay. That's how it works." Crawford smiles. Cold. Empty. "That's part of it. But there's another part nobody tells you about. A licensing fee. $300 a month. Cash. Keeps everything running smooth." Scott's expression doesn't change. 300. And what does that cover exactly? Crawford tilts his head, studying Scott like a cat studies a mouse. "Covers a lot of things. Health inspections that don't find problems, permits that don't get lost, parking enforcement that doesn't notice your cart blocking the sidewalk." He steps closer. Close enough that Scott can smell the coffee on his breath. "And for people like you, it covers the questions that don't get asked, immigration checks that don't happen, background investigations that don't dig too deep. I was born in El Paso, 4th-generation American." "Sure you were, boy." Crawford shrugs. "They all say that, right up until the paperwork gets lost." He lets the threat hang in the air. 300. Every Friday. Don't make me come looking for you. Because if I have to come looking, the price goes up. And if I have to come looking twice..." He leans in close. "People who make me come looking twice end up in the hospital. Or worse. You understand what I'm saying to you?" Scott reaches into his cash box. His hands shake slightly, just enough for Crawford to see and feel satisfied. He counts out 15 20s and offers them. Crawford snatches the money without counting it, folds the bills, slides them into his pocket like they were always his. "Good boy." He pats Scott's cheek, hard. "Maybe you can be trained after all, like a dog." He turns to leave, then stops. "One more thing. The other vendors, Elena, Old Henry, the kid with the fruit, they've been here a while. They know how things work. They keep their heads down and their mouths shut." His eyes lock onto Scott's. "Don't go making friends. Don't go asking questions. Don't go thinking you're something you're not. Just sell your hot dogs, pay your fee, and everything stays peaceful. Understood?" He walks back to the Crown Victoria, gets in, drives away without looking back. Scott watches until the car disappears. Elena is still pretending to organize her cart. Tyler is still examining his shoes. Henry stares at nothing, his jaw tight. Nobody speaks. The silence is heavier than the summer heat. Scott touches something under his apron. A small device the size of a button. A tiny red light blinks once. Still recording. Every word captured. $300 gone. Taken by a man with a badge who didn't even pretend to hide what he was doing. But something else was gained. Something Crawford doesn't know about. Friday is 3 days away. Crawford will come again. Scott is building a case. And Crawford just handed him the first piece. Friday arrives like a punishment from God. 2 o'clock. The Texas sun beats down without mercy. Heat rises from the pavement in visible waves. Scott stands at his cart, steam rising from the warmer, sweat running down his back beneath his apron. The atmosphere on Main Street has changed since Tuesday. The vendors speak in whispers. They pack up earlier. They look over their shoulders more than they look at customers. Crawford's unmarked Crown Victoria appears at the end of the block. But today, he's not alone. 2 patrol cars follow. Officers Dennis Briggs and Wayne Holt step out, adjusting their belts, checking their equipment. Both white, both young, both wearing expressions that say they're looking forward to whatever comes next. They don't approach Scott's cart. They walk directly toward Henry Dawson. The old black man sees them coming from 30 feet away. His weathered hands stop moving. His face goes pale beneath his dark skin. 71 years old, Korean War veteran, 34 years on this corner. And right now he looks like a man who knows exactly what's coming. Crawford approaches the pretzel cart. Briggs and Holt flank him. 3 white cops surrounding one elderly black vendor. "Henry?" Crawford's voice carries across the street. Everyone is meant to hear this. "We need to talk about your account." Henry's voice shakes. "I have most of it, Sergeant. My wife's medication cost more this month. I'll have the rest by Monday. 34 years I've been here, never missed." "You're short." $200, that's all. 200, please, I've never... Crawford shoves him. Henry stumbles backward. His hip catches the edge of his cart. Pretzels scatter across the sidewalk. He falls hard, his back hitting concrete. Crawford kicks him. Once, in the ribs. The sound is wet and hollow. Henry curls into a ball, trying to protect himself. 71 years old, hands over his head, blood already appearing on his face. Crawford kicks him again. Elena screams from her cart. "Stop! He's an old man! Please!" Crawford's head snaps toward her. "You want to be next?" Elena's hand flies to her chest. Her heart. She backs away without another word. Tourists walk past on the opposite sidewalk. They see everything. They keep walking. Don't stop. Don't help. Don't even take out their phones. Briggs and Holt stand guard, arms crossed, smiling like this is entertainment. Scott's hands grip his cart until his knuckles ache. Every muscle screams at him to move, to intervene, to stop this. He doesn't move. He watches. Like everyone else. Like a scared vendor who knows his place. Because that's what 18 months of preparation requires. That's what the mission demands. But watching a 71-year-old black man bleed on the sidewalk while white cops laugh, it costs something. Something you don't get back. Henry tries to rise. Crawford plants a boot on his chest and pushes him down. "Stay down, boy. Stay down and think about what happens when people don't pay what they owe." Crawford straightens his uniform, wipes his hands on his pants like he touched something dirty. "Briggs, call it in. Medical assistance for a vendor who fell. Holt, take statements. Nobody saw anything." Both officers nod. Crawford walks back to his car and drives away like nothing happened. 20 minutes later, an ambulance arrives. Henry is loaded onto a stretcher. Broken rib, fractured cheekbone, severe concussion. The official report will say he fell while moving boxes. That evening, the vendors close early. One by one, they disappear. Tyler stops by Scott's cart before leaving. His voice is barely a whisper. "Don't. Whatever you're thinking, don't." "I'm not thinking anything." "Good. Because thinking gets black men killed around here." Tyler disappears into the fading light. Scott packs up his cart, goes back to his apartment, sits in the dark for a long time. Then he opens his laptop, creates a folder labeled Evidence, downloads the video from Tuesday, Crawford taking money, downloads the video from today, Henry on the ground, blood on his white apron, Crawford's boot connecting with an old man's ribs. A smart man would delete these files, move to another city, forget everything. Scott doesn't delete a single frame. He saves them, creates backups, opens a document and starts typing. Names, dates, times, patterns. Henry Dawson is in the hospital tonight. 71 years old, veteran. 34 years on that corner, beaten in broad daylight because he was $200 short. Someone has to do something. The old man is bleeding. Scott is watching. And Crawford is still collecting. The next week passes in careful patterns. Days. Scott sells hot dogs, smiles at customers, makes small talk about the weather, acts like everything is normal on Main Street. Nights. He becomes someone else entirely. His apartment is small and sparse, kitchen counter covered with notes and photographs, laptop casting blue light across bare walls, videos playing on repeat. He studies Crawford's face, the way the sergeant moves, the way he speaks, the way he pockets money without looking at it, like collecting tribute is his birthright. This man has done this 1,000 times. He'll do it 1,000 more. Unless someone stops him. Scott starts filming everything. His phone sits in his apron pocket, camera lens barely visible through a small hole cut with a razor blade. Record button, always ready. Monday, Crawford collects from Elena. $300. She hands it over without meeting his eyes, hands trembling, breath held until he walks away. Scott records every second. Tuesday, a woman on the next block, selling homemade empanadas. She cries as she counts out the bills. Her hands shake so badly she drops money on the ground. Crawford watches her pick it up without offering to help. Scott records. Wednesday, Crawford and Briggs make rounds together. 4 vendors in 90 minutes. Efficient, professional, like tax collectors in a kingdom of fear. Thursday, Scott visits Henry Dawson at Hartfield General Hospital. The old man lies in a bed too large for his shrunken frame. His dark face is a landscape of purple and yellow bruises, swelling around his eye, ribs wrapped tight. 34 years, Henry whispers. Each word costs him effort. Never missed a payment, and this is what I get. Scott holds up his phone. Can I record this, Henry? What happened to you? Henry looks at the phone for a long moment, then at Scott. Why? Who's going to listen? Who cares about an old black man on a street corner? Maybe someone will. After a long silence, Henry nods. He tells his story. The camera captures everything. The injuries, the words, the trembling voice of a veteran who served his country and got beaten for it. Outside the hospital, Scott notices a car. Gray sedan, parked across the street. He's seen it before. Outside his apartment, near the corner on Main Street. He notes the license plate. Keeps walking like he hasn't noticed. Back on Main Street, Tyler corners Scott near the storage unit. What are you doing, man? Tyler's voice is low and urgent. I've seen you with your phone, always recording. You're gonna get yourself killed. Someone has to do something. Tyler shakes his head hard. That someone doesn't have to be you. You've been here 2 months. You don't know what they're capable of. I'm learning. Then learn this too. Crawford has friends, police department, city hall, places you can't imagine. You make noise, you disappear. Black man asking questions in this town. They'll find your body in a ditch and call it a suicide. Scott says nothing. Tyler walks away without looking back. That night, Scott reviews his footage. 6 collections, 3 witness statements, hospital records, timestamps, badge numbers, enough to go to the police. But which police? Crawford is the police. His supervisor protects him. Internal Affairs investigated twice before, found nothing both times. The system isn't broken. The system is working exactly as designed. Scott needs more, something definitive. Crawford saying exactly what this is on tape. Explicit words that can't be explained away. The gray sedan appears again Friday morning, parked 50 feet from Scott's apartment. No attempt to hide anymore. Someone is watching the watcher. He goes to his cart anyway, sets up like normal, waits. 2:15 p.m. Crawford arrives. Scott pays $300, keeps his hands steady, keeps his phone recording. Crawford pockets the money, same as always. Good boy, you're learning. He leaves. Another recording. Another piece of the puzzle. But it's not enough. Not yet. And time is running out. Because somewhere in the department someone is reviewing footage. Noticing a vendor who stands too still, watches too closely, asks too many questions. Crawford feels it too. Something is off. Someone is watching him. Scott is building a case. But Crawford is building a list, and Scott's name is about to be on it. Day 18. The atmosphere on Main Street has changed completely. Crawford's visits are different now. He's not just collecting money anymore. He's hunting. He stands at each cart longer than necessary, studies faces with uncomfortable intensity, asks questions that have nothing to do with permits or fees. Anyone been talking to reporters lately? The empanada vendor shakes her head frantically, eyes fixed on the ground. No, sir, nobody. Anyone asking questions? Police from other districts? Federal types? Anyone who doesn't belong? No, sir, nothing like that. I just make food. Crawford nods slowly, filing her answers away for later. His eyes sweep the street like searchlights. He moves to Elena's cart. You've been here longest, Elena. 11 years. You see everything that happens on this street. Elena keeps her eyes on her taco shells. Her hands won't stop moving. I make tacos, Sergeant. That's all I see. Crawford leans close. His voice drops to something private and threatening. Someone's been asking questions, taking pictures. Someone on this street thinks they're smarter than me. Elena doesn't breathe. If I find out you know something and didn't tell me, your little taco cart becomes a crime scene. Your grandchildren grow up wondering what happened to Abuela. I don't know anything, Sergeant. I swear. Crawford studies her face, then pulls back with a smile that holds no warmth. We'll see. He walks away, but not before muttering to Briggs, loud enough for Scott to catch fragments carried on the still air. Someone's playing a bigger game. I can feel it. Find out who. That night, Tyler Williams's fruit cart is destroyed. Scott sees the aftermath the next morning. Wheels slashed deep, produce scattered across the sidewalk like casualties. Snitch, spray-painted on the side in angry red letters that drip like blood. Tyler stands in front of the wreckage. His dark face is blank with shock. Scott helps him clean up, picks crushed apples off dirty concrete, throws rotting bananas into trash bags. I didn't say anything, Tyler says, voice hollow. I swear I didn't talk to anyone. Why would they do this to me? It's not about what you did. Scott tosses another ruined apple. It's about what Crawford's afraid of. He knows someone's watching. He doesn't know who. So he sends a message to everyone. Is it working? Scott doesn't answer that question. The police report is filed. Officer Wayne Holt takes Tyler's statement with visible boredom. Investigation goes nowhere. No suspects, no witnesses, no justice. Just another black vendor's property destroyed. Nothing to see here. The next morning, Crawford returns to Main Street, but he's not collecting today. He's just present, standing on the corner for hours, watching. His eyes land on Scott more than anyone else. Scott feels the weight of that stare every time, the calculation behind it, the suspicion building. He keeps selling hot dogs, keeps his face neutral, keeps his hands steady. But he knows. Crawford is narrowing the list, eliminating suspects one by one. Soon, there will only be one name left. That evening, Scott backs up his files to 3 different cloud services, creates redundancies, builds fail-safes. He sends one email to an address he's never used before. Subject line, insurance. Body, if something happens to me, release everything. The gray sedan appears again that night, parked directly across from Scott's apartment building. No attempt to hide anymore. a message written in steel and glass. "We see you." Scott closes his blinds, checks his locks, triple-checks his backups. Friday morning comes, bright and brutal. Scott wheels his cart to Main Street, sets up on his corner. Elena is there, looking older than she did 2 weeks ago. Tired. Her hand keeps drifting to her chest. Tyler's corner is empty. He hasn't come back since the vandalism. Henry is still in the hospital. The street feels smaller now, quieter, emptier. At 2:15 p.m., Crawford's Crown Victoria appears. But today is different. Crawford doesn't get out immediately. He sits behind the wheel watching, phone pressed to his ear. Conversation Scott can't hear. Then Crawford smiles, just slightly, and hangs up. He steps out of the car and walks toward Scott's cart. His expression is different today, more confident, like a man who just got very good news. "You've been busy," Crawford says. Scott's stomach drops, but his face stays neutral. "I don't know what you mean, sir." "Sure you do." Crawford leans against the cart, casual, comfortable. "Someone's been talking to reporters, visiting hospitals, building a little collection of videos and documents." He pauses, letting each word land. "That someone is going to wish they'd just sold hot dogs and kept their black mouth shut." He straightens up, brushes invisible dust off his uniform. "Have a nice weekend, boy." Crawford walks back to his car, gets in, drives away. He didn't collect today. That's worse. Much worse. If you've ever wondered what happens when a black man tries to fight back against a corrupt system, this story is just getting started, and everything is about to change. Friday night, 11 o'clock p.m. Scott leaves his apartment through the back exit, hoodie up, head down, moving fast through shadows. He's going to meet someone. A contact who reached out 3 days ago through encrypted channels. Claims to have inside information about Crawford's boss. Claims to know who's really running the protection racket. The meeting point is an empty parking lot near the industrial district. Quiet, private, away from prying eyes. Safe. Or so Scott thinks. He arrives at 11:30. The lot is dark. One streetlight flickers overhead, buzzing with dying electricity. No other cars visible. He waits, checks his watch, checks the shadows. Headlights appear at the far end of the lot. A vehicle approaching slowly. It's a van. White. Unmarked. No plates visible. That's wrong. Every instinct Scott has screams at once. Every alarm fires. He turns to run. He doesn't make it 3 steps. The side door of the van slides open with a metal screech. 2 men leap out before it stops moving. Briggs and Holt, already running. Briggs tackles Scott from behind. Full force. Face hits pavement. Air explodes from his lungs. Holt kicks him in the ribs before he can recover. Once. Twice. Sharp, precise blows designed to incapacitate. Then, black bag over his head. World disappears. Zip ties biting into his wrists. They drag him across asphalt and into the van. Doors slam. Engine revs. Van moves. Scott counts seconds in his head. Tries to track turns despite the pain. Left. Long straightaway. Right. Another long stretch. 20 minutes. Maybe 25. The van stops. Doors open. Rough hands drag him out into cool night air. Concrete under his feet. The smell of rust and motor oil. Water dripping somewhere in the darkness. They shove him into a chair. Hard metal. Cold against his back. The bag comes off. Scott blinks. Forces his eyes to adjust to dim light. A warehouse. Industrial. Abandoned. No windows. One visible door. Exposed pipes. Puddles of water on cracked concrete. And standing in front of him, arms crossed, expression almost bored, Sergeant Dale Crawford. "You've been asking a lot of questions, boy." Scott's lip is split from the fall. Blood drips onto his apron. His dark skin is already starting to swell where Holt's boot connected. "I'm just a hot dog vendor." Crawford laughs. The sound echoes off distant walls, hollow and cold. Hot dog vendors don't take pictures of police cars, don't record conversations, don't visit beaten old men in hospitals and ask them to tell their stories on camera. He holds up Scott's phone. The evidence folder is open on the screen. "You've been very busy for just a hot dog vendor." Scott says nothing, keeps his breathing steady. Crawford circles the chair, slow, deliberate. Predator examining prey. "Who sent you? Reporter looking for a story? FBI getting creative? Who?" "Nobody sent me. I saw what you did to Henry Dawson. I wanted to document—" Crawford hits him, open palm, hard enough to snap his head sideways. "Don't lie to me, boy. Who sent you?" "Nobody sent me." Another hit, closed fist this time. Stars explode behind Scott's eyes. "Who are you working for?" Scott spits blood onto concrete, looks up with eyes that don't waver. "I'm just a vendor who watched you beat a 71-year-old man because he was $200 short." Crawford stops circling, studies Scott's face, looking for the crack, looking for the lie. He doesn't find it. Crawford turns to Briggs. "What do you think?" Briggs shrugs his heavy shoulders. "Could be telling the truth, concerned citizen in over his head. Some people are stupid like that. Or he could be something else." Crawford kneels down, eye level with Scott, close enough that Scott can see the broken blood vessels in his eyes. "Here's my problem. If you're just a vendor playing hero, I can make you disappear tonight and nobody will care. Another dead black man in Texas. Happens all the time. Nobody asks questions." He stands. "But if you're connected to something bigger, FBI, DOJ, Marshals, then making you disappear creates more problems than it solves." He paces for a moment, thinking. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave Hartfield tonight. Never come back. Delete everything you collected. Forget this city exists." He leans close to Scott's ear. "Or I find out the hard way what you really are. And that conversation won't be as friendly as this one." Scott looks up, blood running down his chin, staining his shirt. "And if I choose neither?" Crawford smiles. "Then we find out together." He nods to Briggs and Holt. The beating lasts 12 minutes. Ribs, kidneys, face. They're careful. Nothing that will kill. Nothing that will leave permanent damage. Just enough pain to send a message that will last a lifetime. When it's over, Scott can barely breathe, can barely see, can barely think. Crawford stands over him. "Leave tonight, or don't leave at all." Bag over his head, van moving, dirt road. They dump him on a roadside outside city limits at 3:00 a.m. Leave him in the dirt like garbage. Scott lies there, stares at spinning stars, tries to remember how to breathe. He's alive, more than he expected. Slowly, painfully, he reaches into his shoe. His backup phone is still there. Hidden compartment. They didn't find it. He types one message with broken fingers. Cover intact. Moving to phase 2. Sends it, then lies back down in the dirt. The stars keep spinning overhead. He survived the night, but someone else won't survive the weekend. Sunday morning, gray light filtering through dirty windows. Scott should be gone. Crawford told him to leave Hartfield and never return. Briggs and Holt made certain he understood the consequences. But Scott is still here. Different apartment across town, different name on the mailbox. Burner phone. Cash only. His ribs are taped tight beneath his shirt. His face is a canvas of purple and yellow bruises. It hurts to breathe. It hurts to move. It hurts to exist. But he's still here. Because this isn't over. Meanwhile, on Main Street, Crawford visits Elena's taco cart. He knows she talked to Henry in the hospital, knows she was friendly with the black vendor who disappeared, knows she might know something. Where is he, Elena? Your friend with the hot dogs? Elena keeps her eyes on her work, hands moving automatically. I don't know, Sergeant. He left, just like you told him to. Crawford doesn't believe her. He leans close, his shadow falling across her cart. If I find out you helped him, if I find out you know where he is and you didn't tell me, I won't just shut down your little cart. He pauses, lets the silence build. I'll make sure your children never see you again. Your grandchildren will grow up wondering why Abuela disappeared. Elena's hand flies to her chest. Her heart is racing. She can feel it pounding against her ribs. My heart, Sergeant. Please. I have a condition. Crawford straightens up. No sympathy in his eyes. None at all. Then you better hope your heart can handle what comes next if you're lying to me. He walks away without looking back. Elena sits down heavily on her stool, tries to breathe, tries to slow her racing heart. Her hands won't stop shaking. Her chest feels tight. Too tight. She closes her cart early, goes home. That evening she calls her daughter in San Antonio. Mija, I just wanted to tell you something. I love you. I love you and your brothers and all the grandchildren. I want you to know that. Mama, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Everything is fine, Mija. I just wanted you to hear me say it. That's all. Elena goes to bed early. Her heart is still racing. It hasn't stopped racing since Crawford left. The medication isn't helping. She dreams of her taco cart, of sunshine on Main Street, of her children when they were young, of her husband, gone 15 years now, of a corner in downtown Hartfield where she spent 11 years making food for strangers who became friends. At 3:52 a.m., Elena Vargas, 62 years old, dies in her sleep. Cardiac arrest. Her heart finally gave out. The years of fear, the constant stress, Crawford's threats, it all accumulated into one final fatal beat. Her neighbor finds her Monday morning. The news spreads through Main Street within hours. Elena is gone. Tyler calls Scott on the burner phone. Elena's dead. Her heart. They're saying natural causes. Scott hangs up, sits in silence for a long time. Natural causes. Elena had a heart condition. Everyone knew that. But she didn't die of old age. She didn't die of disease. She died because Crawford terrorized her until her heart couldn't take anymore. He killed her without leaving a single mark. Scott looks at photos on his phone. Elena handing him coffee on his first day. Elena laughing at his jokes. Elena warning him to be careful. Be careful around here. She was right. And now she's gone. This was supposed to be an investigation, evidence gathering, a case file. Now it's personal. Scott makes one call, a number he's been saving for emergencies. It's time. Phase 2. Tomorrow, 8:00 a.m. You know where. Elena Vargas is dead, and the man who killed her has no idea what's coming. He survived the night, but Elena didn't survive the weekend. And everything you think you know about this story is about to change forever. Monday, 8:00 a.m., FBI field office, Houston, Texas. A man walks through security. Black, late 30s, face covered in fading bruises, moving stiffly. Cracked ribs will do that. But he walks through this building like he owns it. The security guard looks up, sees the face, nods with recognition. Morning, deputy. Rough weekend? Something like that. Elevator to the 4th floor. Conference room C, secure line. Lieutenant Carl Whitmore is already waiting. 15 years with the federal task force. Gray hair, calm eyes that have seen everything. The bruised man sits down, reaches into his jacket, pulls out a badge and places it on the table. Deputy U.S. Marshal, Scott Davidson, Public Corruption Unit. 18 months, Scott says. We finally have enough. Whitmore leans forward. Walk me through it. Crawford's been running a protection racket on downtown Hartfield for at least 3 years. 14 vendors minimum. 300 to 500 each monthly. Over $50,000 a year off the books. He slides a folder across the table. Bank records show Crawford deposited $50 to $300 in cash over 18 months. Small amounts. Different branches. Classic structuring pattern. Another folder. Cell tower data puts his phone at every collection site. Timestamps match witness statements perfectly. Every Friday like clockwork. Another folder. Body camera footage from 3 federal recording devices, including the one I wore in my apron for 2 months. We have him on tape making explicit demands, taking money, threatening vendors. Whitmore flips through the evidence. His expression stays neutral, professional. And the assault on you? Friday night, warehouse, 12 minutes. Scott touches his ribs. The backup device in my shoe. They didn't find it. That's assault on a federal officer. Yes, it is. Whitmore sets down the folders, looks directly at Scott. And Elena Vargas? Scott's jaw tightens. Died Sunday morning. Cardiac arrest. Crawford threatened her the day before. Told her he'd make sure her children never saw her again. That's not technically murder. No. But it's coercion contributing to death. And it goes on the file. Silence fills the room. Whitmore studies Scott for a long moment. 18 months undercover. You got beaten nearly to death. And an innocent woman died. Yes. Was it worth it? Scott doesn't answer immediately. He thinks about Elena's coffee, her laugh, her warning. Elena Vargas was 62 years old. 11 years on that corner. 3 children, 4 grandchildren. Brave enough to stand up when everyone else looked away. He pauses. Crawford killed her, and he's going to answer for it. Whitmore nods slowly. Then let's end this. But his expression changes. Something darker enters his eyes. There's a problem. What problem? Crawford knew you were coming. Every time we moved, he moved first. When we planned to approach Elena as a witness, he got there first. When you set up Friday's meeting, he had a van waiting. Scott feels ice forming in his stomach. Someone on our side has been feeding him information. Whitmore nods grimly. We have a mole, and we need to find him before we make our final move. Scott and Whitmore spend the next 6 hours reviewing everything. Every operation, every leak, every moment when Crawford seemed to know what was coming before it arrived. The pattern emerges like a photograph in Developer Solution, slowly at first, then all at once. March, Scott says, pointing at the timeline. We finalized plans to approach Elena as a cooperating witness. 48 hours later, Crawford shows up at her cart with specific threats. Whitmore nods. Who knew about that plan? You, me, the assistant U.S. attorney, and the task force surveillance team. April. We set up financial monitoring on Crawford's bank accounts. 3 days later, he switches to cash deposits at branches 40 miles outside his normal pattern. Same people had access? Same people. Friday night, the meeting that became an ambush. Scott stares at the board. Names, dates, connections drawn in red string like a conspiracy theory come to life. Who assigned surveillance that night? Whitmore pulls the operational logs, flips through pages. One name appears with disturbing consistency. On every critical surveillance shift, on every operation that leaked, on every moment when Crawford was one step ahead. Special Agent Raymond Cole, 14 years FBI, assigned to the Hartfield Task Force 6 months ago. Excellent record. No complaints, no red flags, perfect cover. Whitmore pulls Cole's financial records. $8,000 in unexplained cash deposits over 6 months. Same structuring pattern as Crawford. Small amounts at different branches. Crawford wasn't just bribing vendors, Scott says quietly. He was bribing the people investigating him. Whitmore's face turns to stone. Cole has access to everything. Every witness name, every evidence file, every move we've planned for 6 months. Does he know we know? Not yet. Scott stands, walks to the window. Houston sprawls below. Millions of lives. Then we use it. How? Feed Cole false information. Tell him the investigation is closing. Resources reallocated. Hartfield moving to another jurisdiction. Crawford hears that. He relaxes. Crawford hears that. He gets careless. Makes mistakes. Scott turns from the window. And I walk back onto Main Street. Whitmore shakes his head. He'll try to kill you this time. This time I won't be alone. FBI in plain clothes at every corner, surveillance van, arrest team standing by. And if Cole tips him off, then Cole goes down too. Either way, this ends. Whitmore is silent for a long moment. There's a time limit. Rebecca Torres at the Tribune is about to publish 8 months of investigation. Once that story hits, Crawford disappears. He has contingency plans. How long? 48 hours, maybe less. Scott checks his watch. Then we move in 48 hours. He walks toward the door. Scott. He stops. Whitmore's voice is quiet. Elena died because someone in this building sold her out. Don't forget that. I won't. And don't die trying to make it right. Scott doesn't answer, just walks out. The mole has a name. The clock is ticking. And Crawford has no idea that the dead black vendor is about to walk back onto Main Street. Wednesday, 2:00 p.m. Main Street. The sun hangs high. Sidewalks bustle with the lunch crowd. Vendors set up carts like any other day. But nothing about today is normal. FBI agents in plain clothes at every corner. A woman eating tacos near Elena's old spot. A man reading a newspaper on a bench. A couple taking photographs of architecture they couldn't care less about. Surveillance van 2 blocks north. Unmarked. Tinted windows. Arrest teams in vehicles on adjacent streets. Engines running. Ready to move. And at the corner of Main and 5th, a hot dog cart. Same cart. Same steam rising. Same smell of grilled onions. The vendor looks up. It's Scott. Same apron, face still bruised, moving stiffly, but standing. Alive. Present. Word spreads fast. The vendors see him first. Tyler freezes mid-transaction and stares. The empanada woman crosses herself. The black hot dog vendor is back. The one Crawford said would disappear. The one everyone thought was dead. Crawford hears within the hour. His reaction is immediate, volcanic. He drives to Main Street, parks in the no parking zone, same spot as always, walks toward Scott's cart with murder in his eyes. Scott watches him approach, hands visible on the cart. Steady. Crawford stops 3 feet away, close enough to smell his rage. You should be dead, or gone. Why are you here? Scott's voice is calm. I'm here because Elena Vargas can't be. Something flickers across Crawford's face. The old woman had a heart attack. Natural causes, nothing to do with me. You terrorized her until her heart gave out. You threatened her children. You killed her without leaving a mark. Crawford steps closer. His hand drifts toward his weapon. You have 3 seconds to get in your car and drive away, or Friday night becomes a fond memory. Scott doesn't move. Or what? You'll beat me again? Like you beat Henry Dawson? Like you threatened Elena? Like you've been doing to every vendor on this street for 3 years? Crawford's fingers close around his gun. Last chance, boy. Scott meets his eyes. Sergeant Dale Crawford, you're under arrest for extortion, conspiracy, and assault on a federal officer. You have the right to remain silent. Crawford laughs. Harsh. Disbelieving. You're a hot dog vendor. You can't arrest anyone. Scott reaches into his apron, pulls out a badge, holds it up where the sun catches the metal. Deputy U.S. Marshal, Public Corruption Unit. I've been recording you for 18 months. The color drains from Crawford's face. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Everything, every collection, every threat, every demand, recorded. No. His voice is barely a whisper. That's not possible. It's very possible. And it's over. Crawford's hand tightens on his weapon. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. I wouldn't do that. Crawford looks around. For the first time, he actually sees the agents, the surveillance positions, the trap that's been closing for 18 months. Briggs and Holt are already face down on the pavement 50 feet away, cuffed, surrounded by agents, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Crawford draws his weapon anyway. Scott is faster. 2 shots crack through the summer air, neither from Crawford's gun. Crawford hits the pavement hard. His weapon skids across concrete. Agents swarm from every direction. They cuff him face down on Main Street, the same street he ruled for years. The same street where he beat an old man for being $200 short. You're dead, Crawford spits into the concrete. You're all dead. You have no idea who I know. Scott stands over him. Elena Vargas was 62 years old, 11 years on this corner, 3 children, 4 grandchildren. Brave enough to give me coffee on my first day. He leans down close. And you killed her. Crawford is loaded into a federal vehicle. Scott watches until it turns the corner and disappears. Then he looks at Elena's empty cart, the spot where she stood for 11 years, where she warned him to be careful, where she handed him coffee without asking if he wanted it. The cart is dark now. Nobody will stand there today. Justice. Finally. But it came too late for her. 1 week later. Grand jury indictment. United States v. Dale R. Crawford. Case number 424-CR-00892. Charges, 3 counts. Hobbs Act extortion, 1 count conspiracy, 1 count assault on a federal officer. Maximum sentence, 45 years. Co-defendants, Officers Dennis Briggs, Wayne Holt. Special Agent Raymond Cole. Deputy Chief Harold Vance, suspended pending investigation. Inspector Gerald Nolan, arrested on state charges. Through his attorney, Crawford maintains innocence. These charges represent federal overreach targeting dedicated law enforcement officers. The union stands behind him. They always do. Rebecca Torres's article goes national. 18 months of terror on Main Street. 2 million readers in the first week. City Council announces independent review of Downtown Patrol Unit. Task forces formed. Reforms promised. Whether they happen remains to be seen. Henry Dawson leaves the hospital after 3 weeks. Returns to his pretzel cart. He's slower now. His hands shake more than before. But he's there. Every morning. Same corner for 34 years. Tyler Williams rebuilds. New cart. Donated by the vendor community. Back in business by Friday. Elena's family holds a memorial at her taco cart location. Flowers for weeks. 3 children speak about their mother. 4 grandchildren place roses on the spot where she stood for 11 years. Scott attends. Stands in the back. Doesn't speak. Afterward, alone, he visits her grave. I should have moved faster, Elena. Should have ended it before he got to you. He places a single white flower on the headstone. Stands in silence as the sun sets. Back at the Marshal's office, 2 photographs hang on his wall. His brother, Jameson Davidson, killed by police 12 years ago. And Elena Vargas. Whitmore stops by his desk. You did everything you could. Scott stares at the photographs. I did everything I was supposed to do. That's not the same thing. And the badge doesn't make you untouchable. It makes you accountable. But accountability always has a price. And sometimes the people who pay that price aren't the ones who should. If this story reminded you that justice matters and that it costs something, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories where the truth comes out, even when it hurts. And if you've seen something that needs to be told, the comment section is open.